My name is Marianne Thellersen, and I'm Senior Vice President for Innovation and Entrepreneurship here at DTU, and I will be your, whatever you call it, moderator, facilitator today. I think we have a very exciting program. Amongst the EuroTech partners, there's a lot of international people here, which I'm sure you will enjoy. And the attention or focus today will be how to promote innovation in health tech. So I think that's a topic that is close to all of us. And in order to get us going, Anders Bjarklev, who is the president of DTU, will say welcome to you.
Thank you very much, Marianne, and good morning, everybody. The mic is on? Yes, good. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to DTU. As Marianne says, it's true, I'm the president of DTU, and actually I'm also the current EuroTech chairman, or whatever you call it at this moment. So I also, on behalf of EuroTech, want to welcome everybody to this EuroTech Innovation Symposium. I'm so pleased that we have this opportunity. Today, the EuroTech University Alliance is a strategic partnership of leading European technical universities. Science and technology is what we do, and our goal is to create strong and sustainable, sovereign and excellent and resilient Europe in the area where we can influence it. We do this through science, through technology, and engineering for a positive change. There are many ways of doing this. One is, of course, education as universities. It's research. It's through innovation. And we do this together with industry and society as a whole. And very importantly, of course, we all have strong partners in the different countries where we operate, and actually also outside of the countries where we normally have our home. So it is a very positive and interesting alliance, and I think it's needed. In Europe, we are, of course, I think everybody knows that there are certain things that put pressure on our system. One system that's under some kind of pressure is the healthcare system, not because of lack of knowledge or initiatives, but because we are getting older as a population. There are more of us, and me being one who get closer to that point, I'm actually quite happy that they managed to keep us alive, and I hope to be that for a long time. But of course, more old people means need for more care, more treatment, and also expectation of all the citizens that we actually want to live a good and healthy and pleasant life all through our life, even to old age. So there's need for new medicines, new treatments, and a lot of expectations to all the system. And of course, as we know, at least in Denmark, you can read that almost every day in the news, that there's not enough clinical staff. So it doesn't add up at this moment as it is. So we cannot solve this by doing more of the same. We need new solutions. We need more research. We need more innovation. And we certainly need new and better labor-saving technologies and solutions for our societies. Making the treatment better, more effective for the patient, and allowing the healthcare system to solve all the challenges that are ahead there. So I think we must increase and promote collaboration between engineers and clinical staff for the benefit of all of us. And like the examples of the other day in the Danish news, you could mention how there was an example of how artificial intelligence could improve cancer treatment based on an analysis of 76,000 patients. Then out of that comes a result that each patient receives a personalized treatment plan, and thereby actually it's said that the number of complications are cut in half. And it means a better and faster recovery for the patient. I'm really impressed by that kind of things, that you can do this. That really makes sense. And I'm sure that it's wonderful for the patient. I'm also sure it's wonderful for the medical staff who take care of this. It must be much meaningful to be able to do your work much more efficiently. So it's really something that gives a lot of hope and belief and trust in the future for me. And actually, in fact, the last time I was standing here at this very table, it's not that long time ago, but it was when we inaugurated Denmark's first technical university hospital of Greater Copenhagen. It's a collaboration where DTU have the pleasure of collaborating with the capital region of Denmark on health science and technical sciences to meet and to accelerate the implementation of health technology. That has the focus, of course, to free up labor and benefit the patient at the end of the day. And that way we hope to be able to give a contribution also to a world-leading ecosystem between hospitals, universities and industry, and thereby actually form also the basis of a better and stronger future healthcare system. There's a lot of excitement. There was that at the other day. I'm sure we will see it also today here. It's really great when you go together with people who have visions and want to make a change that raise the hope for everybody. Several years ago, DTU made a strategic decision of actually putting life science into an engineering university. And I think we have come pretty far. And looking at that and looking at the other EuroTech partners, I think there's a really, really good possibility that we can together come very far, because we have to keep on our toes here at DTU to be at the level of the other EuroTech universities, and we certainly also have to do that to keep on the level of the system, the medical system that we are working together with now. So that's good. We will be at our best to be able to live up to this, and therefore I think it's a truly great potential and a challenge that we not only must meet, but actually are very pleased to do so, because it's going to be exciting, it's meaningful, it's exactly what we want to do here at DTU. So I hope, as my final words, that we are going to have a very interesting day. Looking at the speakers ahead of us, I'm sure there's all the basis for that. I also hope there's going to be a lot of inspirational talks beside that, around the lunch, around the coffee, hands-on experience, best cases to be impressed by, actually also innovation, startups. That's also going to be and this is our innovation and startup house, but Marianne will tell you about that in a second also. But all here in health tech. So once again, I want to welcome all of you and the future of health tech here. It's going to be a great day, I hope and trust. So thank you very much, and thank you for coming all from far and near to participate in this event. Thank you.
Thank you, Anders. Now I have the pleasure of talking just a little bit about innovation at DTU, just to set the scene. So I will do that. I'll try not to spend too much time, but anyway. So at DTU, we have a very old mission that was made by our founder, Hans Christian Ørsted. It was made in 1829, so it's pretty old. And he said that we need to use our sciences to be of benefit to society. And I think that still holds water. That's why we're here today. Science for benefit of society. Oh, there we are. And where are our contributions then to society? Our biggest contribution is by far, I was told I should use this one, but that's not so easy. Students. It's technology, you know. Students. So what kind of competences, mindsets do we give our students? We need to make sure, of course, that all the fundamental skills, science is in place, but we also need to make sure that they can apply it, they can collaborate, and they have an urge to create. That's what we try to do. Then, back we go. Then, of course, research collaboration, and that's with industry, and that's with hospitals, it's with all kinds of collaboration. That's where we bring the research out to the public, right? Because we don't produce anything ourselves, we need somebody else to do that. Then, of course, there are startups, which Anders alluded to. And startups are really good at bringing new innovations out to society. Things that the existing companies maybe think is a little too risky. We have startups, and then we have tech transfer if it needs to be protected. So that's the idea. And if we go into the students, I'll try to not go too much into detail, but at DTU we have a lot of emphasis on bringing innovation into the curriculum. We have some full study programs. We have some where it's mandatory for everybody, so all bachelor's and all science students, Master of Science students, master students need to have a mandatory course. We have electives, and the electives are so thought by the students that we have to say that some can't get their elective even though they want it, so that's a big success. And then we make a big effort to make sure that you can get special assignments, that you, for example, if you are a student that made a startup, you can do thesis work into your startup to help them move their startups along. So we have a big effort there. If we look at the industry collaboration, just saying we have a lot of them. I'm not going to go very much into depth with that, and we are working on getting even more. We also created a program called Industrial Partnerships, where we try to make closer collaboration with some bigger companies. And the reason we do this is because then they start to trust us, and then they allow us in on more secrets. When you don't have trust, where you can collaborate is on the outskirts of what is really interesting. So sometimes it takes an effort to create that trust, so you can work where it's really important. And that's what we also want to do with the hospitals. Create the trust that makes sure that they want us to work with them on where it's really important. That's what we want to do. Rankings. Yeah, we'll just skip that. Sorry, I'm not so much into rankings. We are good in some places, especially when it's about collaboration. We are really good. That's what I usually say. You can see we are trying to watch out how many, or look out for how many startups do we get. It's we have a lot of startups from students. Even under COVID, we had a lot of startups from students. They like to make startups. They come to Skylab, they make startups, they love it. Employees is more difficult. Maybe Jan can talk to that when he comes and talk later on, but it's more difficult because they have a full agenda, they have a lot of other stuff. Luckily, we do have startups from employees. Often they last longer than the ones from the students because there's more solid science in them, but it's more difficult. And that's a culture we want to nourish more, to make sure more technology comes out to society. Then Skylab, where are you today? Well, I took this busy slide along because it shows it's a house of many activities, and that's really my main message. We have a lot of people who enters the door. It's an open place. It's a place for open innovation. That's the whole idea. We don't make NDAs in Skylab, so it's a place for open innovation. You come, you meet, you create. That's the idea. We have classes taking place here, so most DTU students have been here at least one time. So if they ever get the urge to do a startup, they know where to go, and they feel safe to go here. It's not scary to go here. That's the idea. We invite in researchers, so especially PhDs and postdocs like to come here and work with their potential startup ideas. So it's quite broad, and I think that's really my key message here. If we want to create a trusting environment where we can work together on creating something that is really important, it needs to be open, it needs to be collaborative. And it's going to be so interesting to hear how everybody is doing this around Europe. I met some of the speakers you're going to hear today, yesterday, and wow, I was impressed. So I think you're in for a very exciting day with a lot of great examples. So that's what I brought for introducing Skylab. Now to the program. The first session we have today is centered around collaboration between universities and hospitals. And as you heard our president just alluding to, we have a new collaboration between DTU and the hospitals in the region of Greater Copenhagen. And I would like to introduce the first speaker in this session, which is Jan Ardenkjær. Jan is department head of health technology at DTU and also a professor in medical imaging. Jan has spent most of his time in research, both in industry and at universities, has himself created startups, so he is also very well aware of that topic, and is our driving force in this new collaboration with the hospitals. So Jan, please take it away.
Thank you, Marianne. See if I can get my slides up. Great. Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to DTU. I'm really excited about meeting all of you today and the program. Innovation is essential, is very important for us at DTU Health Tech as well. It's something that we think we do very well if we benchmark ourselves in many ways, but it's also an area where we want to improve and where we want to learn. And when we benchmark against many things, we can see that we can improve. So I hope really I can learn from the interaction with you. And the EuroTech Alliance is extremely important to DTU. I have many collaborations with researchers at the Alliance universities, and I'm sure we can learn from each other. So look forward to speaking with everyone today. Yes, I'm head of DTU Health Tech. It's a new department. It was created 5 years ago, and my presentation will be about where we are at the department, what we do at the department, and then Martin Magelund will follow me to talk about the Technion University Hospital, which is this new initiative and which is really a new phase for us. And I'm really excited about see where that brings us in the next 5 years. For me, this is really an important topic. So engineering medicine is something that we see a paradigm change. It's something that, especially with the new hospital alliance, we will see new ways of working. We are planning a workshop later this year with the clinicians at the Capital Hospital, where we will really facilitate the interaction between clinicians and basic scientists, engineers. And I also want to say that I'm the chair of the Engineering in Medicine and Biology conference that will be hosted in Copenhagen in 2025, which is a 5,000 people conference where we really want to make it the theme that engineering medicine, innovation within healthcare, bringing the healthcare sector, the public sector, and the universities together will be the key theme for that conference. I'm really excited about that, and I hope to see many of you there as well. As Anders was saying, we often have, and I'm really glad you put it that way, because we often see it as a burning platform. We have a challenge in the healthcare system, but it's also really nice to see that we have so many good examples of where we do better and where we provide better healthcare for the population, and it's those good examples are really motivating and very exciting to see. And that's another part of the challenge that we have, that technology, science moves so fast forward that we actually can do a lot better for our patients. But we just need to put that much better into play. And as DTU, as a university, engineering school, we want to be to the benefit of society, we want to be to the benefit of our patients and the healthcare system, and that has been the DNA of DTU for hundreds of years. And what has changed in the last couple of decades is that life science has become a more and more significant part of what we do at DTU. For various reasons, we have a very strong pharma industry, biotech industry, and what we can see now that if we look at our production, so to speak, our teaching, our publication, our research grants, they have grown tremendously over the last decade, and is now 1/3 of the activity at DTU. This is one of the reasons that we established DTU Health Tech 5 years ago by taking many of the research areas that took place at DTU and organized it into one department. Obviously, for us as a department, our mission for this area is that we think we can provide better health and well-being for patients through technology. But as a university, in addition to innovating, one of the key tasks is to educate engineers with the right competences for the future to solve these challenges and research in new, better technical solutions. One of the ideas of creating the department is that we could bring together engineers with a diversity of backgrounds, so the wet, the soft, and the hard sciences, so biologists with physicists, with data scientists, and that within the department would create synergies in a more easy way and provide better solutions to that. So we are a big department, about 500 people. We are very international, as universities are these days, and so all departments are. We have very strong infrastructures, and then our faculty has very diverse backgrounds, as I said, within the many different disciplines. And I actually think that as a department, this is one of the strengths and is part of what we try to do. We have a lot of focus on DI, as probably all have, but I think that the diversity that we see in our competences, in our expertise, our background, scientifically, internationally, ethnicity, gender, etc., is really something that is extremely important and is part of making a sustainable and robust both department and also in terms of what we provide as solutions, as products to society. Of course, these different, as you see, the titles that are around the periphery of those 3 cycles that symbolizes our let's say our fields, our domains, reflects what we were strongholds in at the department at DTU at the currently and at the time. So we are a department that is organized into 9 research sections currently that spans these different topics all the way from, say, immunology, immunotherapy, bioinformatics, very much focused recently in recent years on digital health solutions, so apps and wearables and all that whole space, cell and drug technologies, drug delivery, imaging, diagnostic imaging, optical imaging, magnetic resonance, ultrasound are areas that we are very good at. We have also fabrication facility, clean rooms, so we can make transducers. So ultrasound is something that we historically have been very strong at. In Denmark, we, in addition to having a very big, strong pharma industry, we have historically, traditionally, a very strong industry within the hearing aids. One of our strong sections is also in hearing systems, which is not really about hearing aids, but about the understanding of sound and how it's processed in our brains. And so really the basic science around the hearing perception. We have some very strong infrastructures, which I'll get back to in a minute, but we have invested in animal stables, we have invested in imaging equipment, both preclinical and clinical imaging equipment. We have cyclotrons, so we produce with a GMP facility, so we produce radioisotopes for the hospitals. We're building up research into new radioisotopes and new traces. So these are some of the things that happen at the department. And just elaborating a little bit on the core infrastructures, because that is something that we also have had a very strong focus on reorganizing into being open access infrastructures, so they are to the benefit of all of DTU, to the whole, all the universities in Denmark, but also open to industry in a very more transparent and, let's say, open way. That is something which as a university can be challenging, because we are not very good at understanding the cost structures of the services that we provide. So doing full cost analysis and really having transparency about that, and having some objective metrics for how you get into these open access infrastructures has been very important. I think we've come a long way. It is still a challenge, and we're working on it. We also want to, in addition to the ecosystem that we are discussing today, with the innovation and entrepreneurship for students and faculty, we also trying to find ways of how we can make our products and services available to the industry. So we have quite a significant commercial activity at the department. I just mentioned the production of radio tracers that we sell to hospitals, but we also have a significant activity on in vitro diagnostics that we also offer for hospitals and companies, both as services and as development projects. Teaching is, educating the engineers with the right competences to solve the healthcare challenges that we have is a core business for a university, obviously. We have also had a lot of focus on how we contribute to the teaching at the department and how we develop the educations within this space. At DTU we have 2 bachelor educations, one a traditional biomedical engineering education, and then we have a life science engineering education, which is more biologically oriented. Both have about 120 student uptake every year. The biomedical engineer students typically continue on the master's education within biomedical engineering. They can specialize within 4 different areas. See if I can remember them. Biomaterials, imaging, digital health, and then I think it's biomechanics, the last one. But they have specializations within the biomedical engineering field, but they are traditional BMEs, as you probably know them from many universities. And then, as I said, the life science engineering, which is more biologically oriented, where we've been building up curriculum within the biological sciences and medical sciences, and they can then specialize into more master's educations from pharmaceutical design and engineering, bioinformatics and data science, systems biology, biomaterials. So these are the specializations that they can continue on. Actually, I want to emphasize that the biomedical, the BME education is more than 20 years old. It was created together with the medical faculty at Copenhagen University, and it has been run very successfully. We're very, very happy about that, and it's been a very fruitful collaboration with Copenhagen University to create that, and the medical faculty to create that education, where the students also come into clinical practical. They at the hospitals, so the capital region hospitals has been very instrumental in that education, and it's something that in the context of the new Technion University Hospital that really want to build on, and where I see that both because the BME education has been growing, has been scaled in recent years. It has been for many years, it had an uptake of 60 students, and now it's grown to 120 students, so we have a more volume that we would love to see increase. But really, the students is a tremendous resource in many ways, both in the context of the innovation that we're talking about today, but also in terms of facilitating the collaboration between clinicians and faculty at the university. Yes, my last slide is just a little bit what Marianne was also saying about. Yes, we are pretty good at innovation. but we have a lot of attention to collaboration, both with the public sector, but also with industry. And we really try to find ways to accommodate and support the ideas and wishes from our faculty and our students to engage with companies and clinicians and progress their ideas, both in terms of having both shared positions with the public sector and even with industry, and having allowing our faculty to go reduce time for a certain period to go into a startup and supporting that. So yes, there's a big DTU that has the partnerships with companies, but we also do it at a very, very, let's say, individual level, which I think is really important to support that as a department. Yes, so thank you for your attention and look forward to having a good dialogue today.
Thank you very much, Jan. Questions will be after the first 3 presentations. We will have a panel discussion, so save your good questions for that. The next speaker is Martin Magelund Rasmussen. Martin is a Deputy Director at Rigshospitalet and Director of the main Otto Center. Is that right? Yeah. And Martin will give us some examples of collaborations between hospitals and universities and talk about the expectation of this new collaboration, the Technical University Hospital.
Thank you. Is there? You can hear me? Well, thank you very much for the invitation. It's really a great pleasure to be here again. Anders, because we were here recently just signing the agreement that has been mentioned several times by now. And I'll tell a little bit more about it. But before that, allow me just to set the scene for what kind of healthcare system that we have in the capital region. I work at Rigshospitalet, and we have, of course, a national responsibility for a lot of treatments, but we are part of a hospital group consisting of 6 hospitals. And I can see there's representation for some of those here today, and thank you for that. We are around 40,000 healthcare professionals. We serve 1.8 million people, citizens, for their health, and we are trying to have an even more integrated part of the whole part of Eastern Denmark. One of the things that we said on the slide is to meet the need for change, because we need change, and we should probably have said we need to accelerate change. We are in a business where 95% of our staff are trained as healthcare professionals. That's wonderful for treatments, and we have had a tremendous revolution in the way of treating patients. However, the next leap to be able to cope with some of the things that Anders mentioned, and I will also mention the challenges of actually having a lot of people working in healthcare, but that the demand for healthcare services are rising even faster. We need to make a leap to use our technology and our digitalization a lot better. And therefore we need to have other competence skills being a part of our natural life. There's a lot of innovation around. We've got firms wanting to sell us all kind of stuff, and we've bought all kind of stuff, but I'm quite sure that we not utilize that a lot of technology around us enough for the benefit of patients. So we need to change the way of accelerating competence shift within hospitals. Let me check the next one. Oops, that was the wrong way. Healthcare sciences must meet technical sciences. It's easy to say. And for the most eager one, it has happened. We've got a lot of positive examples, and Jan mentioned some of those already. And Jan's department is always reaching out. But there's also a lot of red tape. I mean, you really need to insist if you want to make a success. So we need to get rid of all that red tape. And basically the new collaboration for me is not just a partnership, it's basically an integration of 2 organizations. So when we are here in 10 years, we're not talking about 2 institutions, we're not talking about a capital region and 6 hospitals and a university, we're talking about a unified body that works in and out as a natural part of being one part of the other's life. And for doing that, we need to make common employments. We need to make it easier to make agreements. And already I think we built the basis over the last 9 months, and Jan and I had the pleasure of spending a lot of time together, and thank you for that, Jan, because it's been a really great pleasure to try to actually promote this partnership for a new level. I think you mentioned, Anders, when we had the inauguration here some weeks back, that this is one of the projects where you don't meet any people who are against it. And normally in our organization, well, at least at hospitals, maybe also at DTU, there will always be somebody down in the corner saying, this is not going to happen and this is going to be a bad thing. But this project, it just takes speed as soon as you start talking about it. We've reached maybe out to 200-300 people around the course of trying to promote this, and everybody, also bureaucrats on us, right? We get excited. So we need to build on that excitement because we need to build those highways for collaboration. I this morning just had a meeting with our own IT department. So how do we actually utilize that people can get, access to infrastructure, access to emails, access to all these things that if you don't have in a daily life, well, you just do something else. So we need to create those highways. And we also need to actually build upon the success we have. You mentioned the hearing systems, but you didn't mention that actually Torsten, which is the leading professor there, is having half of his time in Rigshospitalet. So we already build upon strong environments. And Jakob, who sits over there and is vice president at Hvidovre Hospital, he needs to have even more people coming in and out. So for me, bring them on. See, he's eager. That's why he's here. So the vision, I think actually that's a tall vision, to put better and more health with technology for the benefit of the individual patient. That's our core. For the entire healthcare system, that's also our core. And society in general, and suddenly it meets wherever you just said, all of you, from the D2 side. And it is easy to say, but it might be a little bit more difficult to live, actually. If I have my will, we will have 10, 20, 25% of our staff in 10 years being from a different kind of outset than health professionals. They might not all have to be engineers. They could be other data scientists or the people being there. But I think the first step is that we actually embrace, and we are committed ourselves at the hospitals to receive as many students projects as possible. We have a tall ambition about maybe 20, 30 new professorships, 100 associate professorships over the next 2, 3, 4 years, building some of those bridges and those people that actually will have the ability to connect. Because it's not going to be done by individual projects, it's going to be done by people who have their daily living in here at Lyngby and at the hospitals in Hvidovre, in Hillerød, in Blejdomsvej, in Copenhagen. So we need to promote this, and we all have a very big responsibility to try to show what is possible. I think you've shown the way with DTU technology. There's also other departments at DTU that is very interesting for us. So we want to reach out to everybody. We tried to create like 4 kind of instruments. The competence and talent management is what's really at my heart, because I think that's where you change systems. If you make other competence sets, you suddenly change the way you make leaps that you couldn't see before. So that's going to be a very big component of trying to make this happen. Then at this meeting place in collaboration environments, this is one of those. I need to have a Skylab at the Hvidovre, I need to have a Skylab at Rigshospitalet. So let's see how far we can go with that. Of course we need to have more money in this, and people, the funny thing is that when you're talking about offices, right, then it gets really tricky. But I think we need to put ourselves in the forefront of trying to make those places happen. Then there's the whole joint research effort, and we made some of those examples of areas where we should work together. Of course, AI is one of those. I'll get back to that. But I do think the most importantly is that we have even more people talking together, and they'll see the opportunities together that then can leap out, and things that we couldn't see and think now can then happen in the years to come. And then the most boring part, the IT, the research infrastructure, just the notion of saying that all the kind of infrastructure that we have at the hospitals, you will be able to utilize this from a technical point of view, and the other way around, that the clinicians actually will be able to come here and utilize the infrastructure that you have. It's not difficult, it's just saying we want to do that. And I think that has been a really interesting travel to where people say that's probably not possible, and now they say, why not? And tomorrow they will do it. So I think that we laid the foundation for something very strong here. It's the first time in Denmark we're trying to make joint forces like this. I know some of you come from universities that have similar experiences. And I think we might even try to build an international alliances of these kind of constructions to be able to promote internationalization. Because that's actually one of the side effects, a positive side effect. Normally in healthcare we talk about negative side effects. But I do see a very positive side effect trying to integrate the way that you think internationally in the healthcare system. I'm not trained as a health professional. I'm actually an agricultural economist. I've worked in Brussels and Washington and in Africa. And when I came into healthcare 10 years ago, I was really puzzled, and I'm still at how Danish-based it is. I mean, we got 95% of our staff are Danish, right? And you can only practice in Danish. I mean, and most people in Denmark will be able to make treatments and meet people that only speak English. So we need to promote this internationalization through, because some of the things that we talk about when we talk about innovation is not in a national context, it's also in international context. So we need to open up. So I hope you will push us for that too. Some of the examples of correlation, I think you mentioned already the hearing. One of the things that I find very exciting is also the planning aspect. I mean, you could call this logistics of flow and planning. Over the last 10 years, we've had integrated cooperation with Johnson & Johnson in our department for jaws, how to replace jaws. And that has basically revolutionized the way of doing that treatment. Just look at that's the management talking, the 100% increase in productivity. They can now do 2 cases in a one instead of first one when they go to the operating theater. You can have a patient that can actually see physically how that will be changed. I would still say that we use titanium to doing these things. So the biomaterials that Jan was mentioning, of course we need resolvables, because titanium is very difficult to get, and it has a large impact on environment. So sustainability wise, that's also a big headline that we need to do together. Just one example. Then, of course, all the joints, all these firms, you work with them, we work with them too. But that has also been a kind of a business that for years has produced the same thing. So how do we actually make a leap? Not meeting a company wanting to sell us something, but actually together with you meeting them, say we have a need, we need to change in a different way. And of course, there is the acceleration of the AI-based systems, not just for decision making, but also just to utilizing all the knowledge and compressing into more comprehensive notes and communication to our healthcare professionals. I mean, most patients, they work across a lot of systems. They have their own doctor, they have specialized doctor treatment, they go at the local communities, and we don't have all that knowledge. So how do we utilize the way of AI to collect about all that knowledge about the individual patient to be able to take the right decisions? Because always we only see them when they're really ill, and we don't have the view about what else is going on in their life. So there's a lot of things that can be utilized by AI, which has nothing to do with treatments, but just making better solution for the individual patient. This segmentation that we're talking about the cancer patients, is just one of those. We need to have more individualized treatments for patients. We can use AI. We can also use AI for informing patients. We have clinical guidelines that tell us how should we talk to a patient, but why do we need to have nurses and secretaries learning what these kind of guidelines are if we can put up a chatbot and you can put it on the phone and then the patients can talk to those? It is not in the far future that we're going to have some of those things. We are experimenting with them right as we speak now, and we need some of your skills to be able to do that even better. And what if each citizen could have a digital twin? Do you need to go to the hospital? Because we will actually be able to tell Jan before he gets ill what he needs to do to avoid being ill. Of course, that's not going to be the total truth, but there's some truth in it, that we can actually change behavior and try to guide people in doing different things so they don't get ill. That's the future of healthcare. That's where we'll be in 10 years with the help of you. And I have great expectations for that. So the impact will be accelerated implementation of health technology. That will free up labor, you said that, but that will also make better treatments at an individual base. And I actually believe this individualization there that we talked about personalized medicine, but we have to talk about personalized treatments according to the where people are in their lives. And then a strengthened transnational innovation culture. I was at a national meeting last night in Aalborg among all of the large university hospitals, and also with the biggest universities, including DTU. Stine Kruse was here, where we have a collaboration among all those to try to promote innovation projects. And we are not as mature as you are, so you need to push us there, not only not on the project side, but also on the management side. Because I do think we have a very, very, very large potential to try to understand what kind of impact innovation can do and what we need to do as managers. Because we do have normally 3 main tasks. We need to treat people, we need to train people, and we need to do research. And now we need to do innovation too. And that's a completely different task. And we got roles and responsibilities, and we know how to do the first 3 parts. But the 4th, Jakob, what do we do? So basically we need to reach out to each other, and we need to figure out how to actually make the competence within the management layers to be able to grasp all the innovation that is in our systems, but we do not utilize it. I think we cannot underestimate that it has to be a kind of a two-way approach to innovation. And I was glad to see that you have courses in management. Maybe some of us need to take that. Strong locally, inspired globally. We need to say that we are part of an ecosystem. This is just one of the building blocks for the future. And I'm glad you mentioned Copenhagen University. We have a long-lasting cooperation with those. So there's nobody taking anything away from anybody. We're just giving something more to everybody. To being part of knowing that innovation needs to grow from a lot of different actors, and we need to be open to create this new Kendall Square, or even better, because I think the Danish culture of collaboration can actually utilize that we can bring this to a new level, that people will travel to us to see how did they do that, and with that speed, with that short time. So thank you very much. I'm looking forward to following it. And Marianne and I will be part of the board, and Jan and other good people will be there too. So hopefully we can push each other for a better future for patients and society as a whole.
Thank you, Martin. We have a lot of exciting challenges in front of us. The next speaker is Nikos Stergiopulos. So that's Greek, so sorry for my pronunciation. Nikos is professor and director of Laboratory of Hemodynamics and Cardiovascular Technology at École Polytechnique Fédérale de Lausanne, EPFL, to all of the rest of us, in Switzerland. Nikos shared with me yesterday that he actually made 5 startups. I was so impressed, and many of them quite successful, so way to go. Nikos will tell us about developing clinically relevant technologies in academic labs and lessons learned from interaction with public and private hospitals. Thank you, Nikos.
Thank you. Can you hear me? So, yeah, I can talk about my startups. I added this lessons from interaction with hospitals because it was the theme of this section, but I'm not an expert on that. So, so my take on this is like the title of a Woody Allen movie, Whatever Works, okay? So I'm gonna just present my experience, and hopefully this will be a good teaching for us. You will see it can be very diverse. So I live and work at EPFL the last 30-something years. I did my whole career there. It's a wonderful technical university, and actually I'm very glad to see the spirit here at DTU is very similar. So one of the things I was telling you yesterday during dinner is that an interesting thing in Switzerland, I don't know how it is in other countries, but we are very lucky to have by federal act, so it's federal law, professors have not the 2 classical missions of teaching and research. We have as a mission technology transfer. It's a way to bring back to society all the investment is done in our labs. And I think this is great because a lot of people are motivated by that. We also have 20% of our time free to work on anything relative to our research. And that could be time spent in startups that we can create or help others create. And I think this is a very positive background to liberate a lot of potential, creative potential. And certainly was one of the drivers for me early on in my career to work on startups. To put things in perspective, just one slide on Switzerland. I don't come here to brag about Switzerland. I'm Greek myself. I'm happy to live in this country. But many people know pharma industry in Switzerland, Novartis, Roche, and the like. But in Switzerland, we have a lot of medtech. And if you look in this slide, it's an old slide, but still holds true. There's about 5,000 companies working in medtech. Of course, some big ones, some American companies are there, but a lot of small, medium enterprises in medtech, either as manufacturers or suppliers. That's a huge sector. And if you look at I don't know if there's a pointer here, but it doesn't matter. The output of medtech in Switzerland is used to be at those years 25 billion, it's similar today. and the global medtech output all over the world is 300. So in proportion, about 10% of the global US, Europe, Asia, 10% is done in Switzerland. So that's beyond any proportion. So Switzerland is, and people don't know it, is a medtech giant compared to its site. So we have, as professors, as providers of education and research, a tremendous task to fulfill. We need to serve this important industry, okay? And we can serve it by teaching, training engineers. We can serve it also by, spinning out good technology out of our labs. And as a matter of fact, if we look at the startups created at EPFL, it's a good spot for technology transfer. About 42% is in medtech and biotech. It's a tremendous output. And that's a figure. It goes to 2021. I didn't have the time to get the newest figures. In 2021, of course, it was a great year. About 32 startups were created that year, and a record amount of money invested in the startups, close to 800 million. It dropped down after that. COVID came, crisis, but overall the trend, as you see, is very, very positive. So we have a very good ecosystem, and I'm glad to see, of course, that you're creating an equal ecosystem here. That's absolutely, we need that. Now, talking about medtech, it's clear that doing medtech only at the Polytechnic School will not make sense. You need to have input, clinical input. And we're happy to be, EPFL is in Lausanne, the light blue color is Lake Geneva, and you have Lausanne on one side, you have Geneva on the other side. And we have two major hospitals, CHUV, which is the University Hospital of Lausanne. It's a major hospital, many times ranked as one of the best hospitals in the world, research-wise, or I don't know what the criteria are, and Geneva on the other side. And that's clearly a setting where we can profit from the clinical expertise of these two major university research hospitals. So, myself, I'm a professor of biomedical engineering. I do research, but very early on, based on the conditions they offer to us, I was able to create quite a few medical startups. The first one was EndoArt SA. We worked first on a cardiac device for children with congenital heart disease. I'm going to give you some details on that, which then we leveraged to treat obesity. I'm not going to go into details how you can go from cardiac disease to obesity. It's technology leveraging. I have then created a company, Antlia SA, which is a micropump for drug delivery, precision drug delivery. This failed, this company. Then later on, a company in the ophthalmic space, a drainage device to treat glaucoma. I'm going to tell you a little bit about this because the teaching is slightly different. And the latest very interesting startup is Confia to treat erectile dysfunction, a major clinical problem for men. So, EndoArt, I started that company in 1998. It grew up a lot. It was the period where raising money was very easy before the crash of the stock market and the dot-com crash. It grew up to 27 employees, and we raised close to 40 million Swiss francs. And as I said, we made a cardiac device for children with congenital heart disease, like tetralogy of Fallot, if there are clinical people here, univentricular hearts, this kind of problems. And it was a banding device to protect the lungs from high pressure. And it worked very well. You can see the surgery here. Children that were 2 kilos, few months, and you had to do often repeated surgeries to keep them alive. We were able to put an adjustable band and save a lot of lives. But the market was very small. The company could not be a very profitable company, so we leveraged exactly this telemetric technology to make at those times, a gastric band to treat obesity. It was a it was popular at that time. It's not anymore today. And this band was based on the same technology. And because it was popular and we were unique to offer this technology, Allergan came and bought this startup for 120 million in 2007. It was the largest exit at that time in the medtech area from EPFL. So it gave me a lot of hope that you can go from an idea to a final product. And just to mention something about the collaboration with the clinics. So we collaborated with both clinics in CHUV and Geneva, Professor Kalangos in Geneva and Professor von Segesen in CHUV. It was a time where regulatory aspects were easy. So time to get ethics committee approvals and medtech approval was quite easy. And we wanted to involve all local teams to, you need for pediatric cases, big hospitals with infrastructures and so on. It worked very well. Then I have created this Rheon Medical ophthalmic glaucoma company. Here the paradigm was totally different. We tried to work inside the lab much longer until the product was ready for the clinic, not raise money immediately, because then we de-risk the technological aspect as much and then you raise money with better value later on. And that's the drainage device. We made the first one, which is adjustable. What you see up front is a little adjustable device with a magnet. You can turn the magnet using an external magnet and a compass to measure the position of the magnet. And we can make the drainage per patient. We're talking about personalized medicine. This is part of providing a personalized treatment per patient. And you can see on the right the patient that comes back a few weeks, fibrosis raises pressure. You can just change, by not touching the eye, the position of the implant. You open up the little faucet and the pressure drops. And you can measure again the pressure, as you see on the right there. If they measure again, they check the position of the implant. Without touching, it takes about a minute. And when you measure, you're at 13, 14 millimeters of mercury, which is perfect. And it's working very well. So that's an interesting concept. Still, the company now is in commercial phase. We're selling this product, and we're developing further the company. Now, for this one, the interaction with the doctor was totally different. We didn't go to the big university hospitals, because for us, the main driver is the motivation of the clinical people. Clinical people tend to be very busy and very difficult to manage. I see some people shaking their hands. They all agree with me. So we went to a private clinic. Very strange, right? Private clinic in Lausanne. It was the biggest glaucoma clinic, and the doctor there, Dr. Mermou, apart from his great skills as a doctor, he had an interest in the project. So interest is really much more useful than just a position in a high, let's say, ranked university hospital. You need time, and you need people to really want to help you. Okay? So we went for a private clinic, and this has worked very well. The third example today is this newer company called Confia, and we are focusing on a major problem, which is prostate cancer. A lot of people are getting prostate cancer. They get prostatectomies, and people with prostatectomy, radical prostatectomy, their chances to develop erectile dysfunction is at least 70%, which is a major problem. And the solutions we have today, it's hard to believe, but today, if you get erectile dysfunction out of prostate cancer, you have only two solutions: either injections of vasodilators directly on the penis, papaverine and these kind of things, or put a flexible inflatable rod there, which you inflate manually. So very destructive, painful, very under par solutions. And what we came up, our idea was to do an electrostimulation of the nerves that you damaged during prostatectomy and help them regrow and do, basically redo the connections, the neural connections. And this is, of course, a much more elegant solution. Interesting thing, In between the creation of this company, we had the major problem in Europe we were discussing yesterday, a very painful thing with this new MDR, where people swung really to the other side and made a huge mess on the regulatory space. And many companies, including ours, decided to go directly for FDA approval, rather than going through the trouble of MDR and all this, because anyway, the market is there. It's easier to draw capital if we have this path, and many people, at least in Switzerland, chose to go down this path. And rather than working in Lausanne, we worked with a professor at Johns Hopkins University, which is thousands and thousands of miles away. He hooked up with his colleagues, and now we're working with Brazil, Australia, and you see that the thing is, I said, whatever works, right? Whatever serves your purpose best. And we have fantastic results. You see that our patients are on the green on top. They totally maintain erectile function rather than the lower curves that you see in the typical prostatectomy. Very exciting stuff, and hopefully this works. So let me close up with my last 1 minute take-home messages. MedTech corporations, big corporations are risk averse. Everybody knows that, Medtronics and the like. So there's a development gap between idea and the product. Startups can serve this gap, but often under pressure and money pressure, time pressure, money pressure. So the labs, like the Skylabs here or the university labs, have the luxury to develop products a little further, de-risk technology, and make technology a little easier to raise money when it's more mature. That's my take home. So we should support as people in the governance of universities. And the last slide is, for me, the name of the game is clinical need. That's why you need the collaboration with medical doctors. You cannot just push technology. Pushing technology does not serve us, right? We need to start always from the clinical need. And the name of the game is value creation. Sometimes it's small things. Clinical input is crucial, you understand? And the biggest driver for me, as I said in the beginning, is the competence and the will. I would put in bold the will, because a lot of people are competent, but they don't have the time or the interest or the will. So the best suited for me approach is, if you want to help this thing, go for that. And also for funding, because people are interested how to fund this kind of initiatives, I don't believe much in top-down. Because people, the moment you start top-down, they will be very inventive. They will create projects just to get the money. That has happened so much. So I don't believe in that. It's best suited to support after you have concept, proof of concept, and interest from the people. So thank you for taking a little bit. Sorry for letting me 1 minute to run above my. Hope you find it interesting.
So please stay up here, Nikos, and I would invite Jan and Martin to join. And now it's up to you to be active. So I hope you have a lot of dilemmas, challenges for these talented people for you to help with. And so ask a lot of questions. And if you don't have any, I can ask questions, but that's not so much fun. So what do you think? Yeah, we have one down there. Who has the mic?
I can shout out.
Oh, you can shout out. Please do.
Yeah, so Trine Bartholdi from Bioinnovation Institute. Thank you for a lot of inspiration already this morning. One question to the Technical University Initiative. What is the absolute success factor to obtain in a short and longer term? I mean, what will make your stakeholders happy within the next year and within the next 3 years?
Shall I start, Jan?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Well, I believe that one of the success factors we need to see is that we can treat more patients with the same resources we have now. That's the society problem that we're actually trying to attract here. Then you can break that down to all kind of goals, and we mentioned some of the inputs that can go down there. But we need to see that we can curve that. The fact is that right now we have a pressure on the number of patients we can treat with the staff and resources we have available.
Yes.
That's a tough endpoint. Jan?
Yes, I can supplement. I mean, Martin, you already said it. I mean, we have defined some KPIs, some metrics in terms of the shared positions that we want to create academic positions, clinical professorships, which is medical doctors with an affiliation to DTU, which is really new, but also clinical academics at the hospitals that can have an academic position at DTU. So there we have a clear metric. But I actually think that many of the things that Martin mentioned in terms of breaking down the barriers that our colleagues meet every day in terms of collaboration agreements, non-disclosure agreements, data processing agreements, all of those we have worked very intensely on, IT, etc. And that will have a tremendous impact on how we can collaborate and how we can create value to meet the ultimate goal of what Martin said.
Yeah?
No, just to take it a little bit further, so I'll ask a boring question again,
sorry.
which is the prolongation of what was just asked about juridical framework, which you insisted a lot on it, and I think it is what prohibits development most, I think, in many cases. Have you advanced? What kind of framework are you imagining? And then I would ask the same question to Nikos, who showed 4 models which seem to be quite different from what you were hinting at, and maybe more informal. And could you comment on how you organized practically? So it's basically the same question to both.
Well, basically to say we have already implemented that we have those kind of contracts, the same standards, that all people have sit together, they put out the frameworks, it's there for be applied today, tomorrow. Yes. And that will actually just, lower the entry barrier of actually collaborating. And then I don't think it's an either or, because we also need what Nikos said. Over to you.
So the question is how we organize our contact with the medical teams and so on. So obviously the first choice is to look around you, because proximity is a factor, and we would definitely favor this. But as I said, the 2 main drivers for me is the competence, and the second is the will to collaborate with you. Everybody in the beginning will say yes, but you have somehow to find a way to judge if they're really willing to spend a little bit of time in thinking along the project, giving valuable input, etc. Okay, there could be problems that you just need executors, and that's okay. If you do a multi-clinical trial with everything, the protocol is fully defined, etc., then you don't need thinkers, you need executors, and that's okay. You can go broad. But in the beginning, when you need valuable clinical input, that's where you need the will. That's how I do it.
But I think actually one of the things that we think that will advance is that we have employers that has 1 employment but 2 places to go. So you're embedded in these kind of change agents. So that this transaction is not there because it's basically within that person. And we've got enough of those, then you certainly have an acceleration of some of those processes.
Yes. No, I just want to say it's of course we have many good examples. Nikos is really a excellent star case of how it can work, and we have many of those good examples. But we really want to create the environments where this is facilitated, because there are the majority needs a little push, right? And that's both for our students and it's for our employees. So we really want to create those environments where because there's a lot of coincidence. Talking at the coffee machine, what is the real problem? Going out there and watching what actually happens out in the real world. That is what we want to facilitate as from a managerial point of view.
Hi, Mads from student organization Copenhagen MedTech. It's all very exciting as a student to hear about all these visions for the organizational infrastructure, but I guess it also begs the question when looking to, for example, Johns Hopkins with the Center for Bioengineering, Innovation and Design, and SDU and Mads McKinney Møller Institute, what's the perhaps vision for a physical embodiment of this technical university hospital in 5-10 years' time?
Well, we've thought about a lot. Now you asked in a 5-10 years perspective, and of course you can have many pictures or suggestions for that. But it's already been mentioned. We would love to see a Skylab-like facility at Breidomsvej, the main hospital. We can point to many good examples of that around the world, where we can get inspiration for that. But we would really like to see, of course, a physical space where we bring students engineers, basic scientists, and clinicians together around the coffee machine with supporting facilities where we can share ideas and co-create.
But if I can give a little pushback, I will also say if we can get 100 million, I'd rather use them on staff than physical infrastructure because we got a lot of square meters.
For 200?
Staff.
I'm Jakob Hendel. I'm from Amager Hospital, and what I would like to ask is what is lacking for us in this? Have you brokered the interests of the end users? Because if we come to the point of it, the patients or the citizens are our end users, and part of what we're trying to do is actually bypass their need for us. So have you any experience with that, Nikos, or are you just going to the clinicians? Or do you have any input on how we can broker the interest of the real end users?
Yeah. So usually in the beginning, I don't think that much along the value chain of things, right? It so happens we look into clinical problems that are underserved. That's basically the driver. In the particular case of erectile dysfunction, I just happened to have a very good scientist that was working in my lab, and we laid out, we understood that today that's a huge problem. That's huge. I forgot to mention that also it serves paraplegics and tetraplegics. And we have patients now that are, it's miraculous. They have regained sensation, which they didn't have, by electrostimulation, orgasm, and so on. So that's fantastic. We try, in the beginning, we don't think about the different stakeholders, we think of the clinical problem. Maybe it's our way of engineering, thinking, how can I serve this clinical problem? Sorry to disappoint you, but I don't think about all these things. So the scale of the problem is also a driver for fundraising. If you're, unfortunately, this is a tough reality. If you have an orphan kind of very small market, it's very difficult to raise money. So we naturally are more tempted to serve problems that they're likely to be funded. But I'm sure others have done otherwise. Okay, and but I've seen a lot of enthusiasm when we see really benefit to the patients. At least my people that I work with, they're excited to see. They're in the operating room, and when they see results, they're super excited about that. But the way we analyze things is we basically look at the problem. It's a little bit of an engineering approach to that.
We have to work with that, all us engineers. There's a question there.
Harman de Jong from the Eindhoven University of Technology. I want to touch upon the last remark by Nikos about actually that it's far more efficient to keep new concepts, new innovations longer in the academic world.
Yes.
The problem, of course, is how to fund that. I mean, you have as a mission in your act that you need to transfer technology. In the 5 other connected EuroTech universities, that's not the case. From a Horizon Europe point of view, there's not much gain there, not much funding available for these type of actions. On the regional levels, or like programs like Interreg, they're all short-term, they're not so large in budgets. So, yes, you're lucky, and I'm very glad for you. But what about the situation at DTU? And is there maybe a role for EuroTech in that?
I should answer this. I hope so. I'm here to advocate this. And I was talking and I was looking at the president there. I think, as I said, this policy of EPFL, for me, it worked very well. When I started, I was lucky to start 30 years ago. I don't believe it was more than 5 to 8% of the professors that they had startups. I was telling you yesterday during dinner that probably today, I think more than 70% of the professors have startups. And that's not the only thing. A lot of students also, a lot of postdocs, a lot of PhD students. It's a cultural thing that's put in place. Now, the other dimension of the problem is, as I said, my first company, we spun it out when I had just one A4 written idea on a piece of paper. And then, of course, you have to raise money to prove that the proof of concept, which is expensive money and so on. What I'm advocating now is that if there are ways, through applied research programs, I don't know what, to work on the clinical problem and on the technology, make it more mature within the lab, so you don't, shop for expensive money. It's a better approach. That's my experience. Now, where this money would come from, that's for the legislators and the people that want to build the right frame.
Did you want to say something?
I think there's a strong realization in Denmark that a particular point there need to be addressed. And we're talking about technology funds, talk Center for Innovation, we're talking about a lot of these things because there is a space there that you need to develop for a while. We also created new instruments of innovation tenders where you have private actors coming in solving problems with the clinicians in the so there's different ways of. I don't think we found the formula yet, but I think there's a great awareness at least in Denmark around it.
Yes. So we're discussing stuff like, I'm sure you are doing as well, meritation. So can you give credit to somebody? They can become a professor, even though they are doing innovation, right? If you could put it that way. And we think that they can become a professor, maybe even an innovation professor. We have those at DTU. We are also talking to EIC, for example, and other bodies on ensuring the full path. So you can go from a research grant and then pre-secured that you are eligible for further funding to mature your ideas that comes out of your research. So I think we're doing a lot of stuff, but it's true that Switzerland is in a good position.
Can I add a comment on this?
Yes.
There was an interesting research done in the University of Leuven some years back. And this research looked at professors that are involved in technology transfer and those that are not.
Exactly.
They're focusing only on their basic research. And surprise, the people that did also technology transfer, they were more productive also in their basic research.
Yeah. And then we have a president that is always emphasizing its importance. So I think that's important as well.
And there's another point seen from a hospital point of view, at least. That is, if we spin out too early, we need to buy it back too expensive. And then you actually have created, at least in a Danish context, which is publicly financed, a higher cost. So if you keep it longer, the value of actually spinning out afterwards can create the position that you might even have a feedback on that one. Or you get an agreement that does you can get it back at a cost price and then you sell it outside and then there will be a feedback. So there's a lot of opportunities there that we need to advance as hospitals.
Exactly, and also make sure that it's not developed for a small department and only used at one department, because if that's the case, it will be too expensive for sure. Yeah. So I hope that answered some of the questions. Yes?
Hi. Aisha from the Capital Region. I would like to piggyback on the previous question, because there are opportunities for innovation if you have commercial potential.
Exactly.
But if there's no commercial potential, it's much more limited. Like we have BII also for commercial potential and so on and so forth. Where is innovation that has implementation potential but no commercial potential? Where is in the funding for it?
Exactly.
And what are we going to do about it?
Do you want to take that?
But I think that's part of what is recognized, that we need a funding vehicle for that in Denmark. That's where they call it Technology Fund, the Center for Scaling. There's different kind of initiatives exactly for that part, because we also need to realize not everything has to be spin out to be a commercial success. There's a lot of space there in between. And actually I think, and Jan wants to say something right now, I can see that the whole notion of having people actually also embedded skills-wise within the hospitals from technical skills will actually allow us to make that transformation too. Over to Jan.
Yeah, and I think, well, just very brief comment. I think you're hitting a very, very important point, but I think it's really not to what we talked about before in terms, I think actually also in Denmark we have a really good ecosystem for proof of concept money, both from the university, BII, also from a faculty perspective, we support it very, very well. But there's definitely a disconnect between having developing a technology and getting to the proof of concept, and then the implementation and scaling of that, which is probably more structural to our public system in terms of how, let's say, the purchasing system, where we could create value, but it's not valuated in the right way, or there may be some structural legal limitations in how we. But that's something we need to work on as well.
But in our conversation with the region and the hospitals, they have told us they also want to look at logistics, for example. You cannot patent that or commercialize that. But if there are some good practices, they say they are committed to make sure that they will be shared and also implemented at other departments and hospitals. And I think that has been a challenge previously, that maybe it's one department that changed to something fantastic, but nobody else learned about it and took it on. So that's also going to be a challenge in our collaboration. Yes?
My name is Christian Bluff. I'm from the Center of Diagnostics, DTU. My question is to Martin. Martin, how will you motivate your clinicians and healthcare personnel to make use of this new collaboration between us and the regional hospitals? Will they get 20% innovation time?
One of the things that we talk about is that every time that you can actually, free from what you do by doing other things, you keep. I mean, what kind of incentives do we need to do, right? There's no extra money in this. You need to create that value. And then there's also the notion of actually being an associate professor at DTU at a limit amount of time, but you actually have then the access to be able to guide PhD students, to guide other students. That's an accelerator too. So you have to build in those personal incentives. And then I hear that at least at Danish universities will come with a concept of how do we actually value also in a career-wise when you do innovation, how do you actually measure that? That's going to be a third part of actually trying to promote those clinicians. But I would say, at least at my university, and I think in all of the hospitals that is present here today, there's people just eager to start with that collaboration. So the threshold, I don't have to make a lot of pull. I mean, they're there. They want to be pushed.
Hi. Oh. You can. Okay, there it goes. My name is Albert. I'm in a group that's split between Rigshospitalet and Biosustain, actually. I just noticed that there's a lot of talk about devices and digital health. And I was just wondering, also maybe it's more a question to Jan and maybe Marianne as well, the whole bioengineering and chemical engineering and regenerative medicine and drug delivery, is that also going to be a part of this? And when is it like a stage thing, or how is it going to be developed?
Do you want to answer?
Yes, I mean, we have no prioritization as such, in a sense. Maybe you feel that there's more emphasis on digital health, wearables, supervision systems, etc., data science. But no, I mean, we have a very strong collaboration with the capital region, with Herlev and immunotherapy. We have very strong research on CAR-T, etc. So let's say the chemical biotechnology, resistance, bacterial microbiology, all of that, I mean, is equally important in this collaboration.
But is bioengineering, for instance, are they going to be involved more in the technical university that's coming?
They are involved. This is, I mean, that should not be no doubt about this. This is DTU-wide. Of course, it has a home at my department naturally, but this is DTU-wide, and also in the board of the Technion University Hospital. Well, there are 3 department heads in the board: bioengineering, DTU compute, and DTU management, which will be rotating. So definitely, and Martin said it very explicitly, I mean, this is material science, this is printing cement and metals and so on for implantables, etc., etc. So, I mean, we want the clinicians to reach out to all the engineering competences at DTU.
So you just start engaging.
So, no more questions? Then I think we... oh, Anders has one. Yeah?
Yeah, maybe one question for you, also for you, Nikos, and thank you, all 3 of you. It's really impressive and very exciting to be here today. The political system, you said that in Switzerland you actually had, was that a top-down thing that the federal government said this is something, or did you also have to influence the political system? That's one for you, and maybe for Martin and Jan. Any reactions from the political system by our
initiative? Go first, Nick.
No, so when I became a professor, I just got a letter saying that the missions are that, teaching, research, technology transfer, and it was there. It was there before I came, and but it grew. The last 30 years, as I said, there was a constant support of technology transfer. I think Switzerland is a very similar country to Denmark in certain aspects. And in your talk here today, talking about high quality, high margin kind of jobs are essential for us, you know. And technology transfer is a tool for that, right? It's clearly supported. So it is a little bit more top down in that aspect. The vision is there. Now the instruments on how to motivate people to do stuff meaningful, you know, that's my take on this.
And in relation to our politicians, you met our head of our council, and he was excited. And when I meet other politicians, they are excited too. But actually, even more better is that when I sit with other management group from other hospitals in Denmark, they get a little bit envious. Because they think, okay, I think you take it to another level. I think I've been envious of some of their collaborations because they have had universities where there's technical faculties and health faculties, so they've had the opportunity for years. But when I tell them that the ambition that you also mentioned, Jan, and the fact that we will have students, 500,000 coming in, being part of the hospital, they think, okay, you take it to a different level. So I think there's an excitement saying, okay, can we actually replicate this? So I guess we're going to be a roadshow on how do we actually promote this, just not in the capital region, but across the nation.
So let's just put it that way. There's a lot of hope and ambition, and the proof of the pudding is in the eating. So let's see if we can materialize any of it. I hope so. It's time for a break. Oh, did you want a question? Yep. Do we have time for one last? Yes.
You talk a lot about funding this innovation initiative, and talk about where it's going to come from, and if it's going to go from nurses' salaries and so on and so forth. But there's also a big chat about this commercialization collaboration. And if we look at numbers from EuroTech Copenhagen in 2019, there was 196 million Danish kroner invested in Danish health tech startups, and that grew to 2,319 million Danish kroner invested in 2021. So how do we make sure that this money being invested is going to clinical needs that we actually want in the healthcare system?
It's difficult to decide where the investors should put their money. But I think what we can ensure or aim at is to make sure that we develop something that has clinical needs. And then it can get funding. So I think it's the other way around, really. We need to step up and develop something that has a true need. And then I think the funding will be there for it.
And I think actually what you mentioned, Marianne, with some of the longer-term partnerships, also with both smaller entities and larger entities, will create that trust. We try to duplicate, try to steal as much as we can, of course. So making these same kind of partnerships, at least at Rigshospitalet, try to promote some of these things where the needs will be even more addressed. And then I think that some of those companies, small or big, can react to those. So less paper selling and more impact selling.
Perfect. It's time for a break, and thank you, gentlemen. I have a few practical information. If any of you need a restroom, it could be right down in the basement, over there, or on the second floor in the building, or that part of the building, you will find restrooms. There is coffee, water, and so on, and a lot of opportunity to talk until 10 minutes to 11, right? So see you. And I'm so happy to hear how much you are talking, which is really good. Great success. And I did try to get them in, but it didn't work. So what do we do? Hey, everybody, time to start. I can't do it any better. Fantastic, it worked somewhat. So, our next speaker is Dominik Pförringer. Unfortunately, Dominik was not able to be here today, so he will be on a screen sitting up there. Hi, Dominik. Yeah, you're waving, so everybody is here. That's good. Dominik has worked as a trauma surgeon and specialist at Munich University Hospital, and he holds an MBA as well, so he has a good feeling and sense of the clinical and kind of the business angle or commercial angle of things. He has worked as a consultant in the healthcare sector and has established an international network across businesses and especially within healthcare. So he's a doctor, he's a founder, he's an entrepreneur, and he's an investor from TUM, the Technical University of Munich. The topic that well, it doesn't say, so I don't know. The topic that Dominik will be covering, you will see, but I'm sure it'll be interesting. Please take it away, Dominik.
Thank you very much for the introduction. I hope everybody can hear me well in the room, and I would be thankful for a signal if everybody has the audio. Yes? Okay, waving hands, great. Hello to Copenhagen. I would have loved to be there. I'm in London right now at Imperial College. We're working actually on a digital solution right now with the Imperial College people, which is just a great experience. And I appreciated how all these sectors are actually growing together. I'm highly honored to be giving a speech today remotely in Copenhagen. I would love to be with you. I hope there will be another chance. And there will be an invite from my side at the end of my speech for all of you to come to Munich this fall. Of course, 15 minutes is very brief, especially if you're being asked to give 10 minutes and then 5 minutes of a discussion. But what I'm trying to put out there is a little bit of a teaser of food for thought for potential cooperation and collaboration. And of course, in the Q&A session, I'm willing to jump into all details that might be of interest to you. So what am I doing at the TUM Venture Lab Healthcare? We are in charge to basically get all the founders in the university hospital under our umbrella to actually help them and support them in what they are doing and to understand how entrepreneurship can link to medicine. And with that, I'm going to jump into my brief presentation here. So this is, of course, what we're all sort of looking forward to, that the conversations can work remotely. This can happen in the parts, you know, when there's an acute injury, when there's a skin rash or something like that, it can happen, it can work, but it's only the tip of the iceberg or the tip of the tip. The reality, unfortunately, looks like that. And yes, there is more than 400 fax machines in our university hospital running every day. Yeah? People bring us pictures in CDs and we have stacks of paper, and this is all killing us. So paperwork in Germany, in just the praxises, so not even the hospitals, is eating 54 million hours per year of the doctors that are in their own offices. So that's where you see where the main problem lies. On the other hand, I think we are all experiencing a similar shortage in workforce and an overaging society. So this will not be a question if you want it. It will not be a question if this is something you desire or you can imagine. It will be probably one of the only solutions to actually give care to the growing number of elderly people. That's something we need to think about it, and this will work, and this will be established soon. Here you can see where the problem is. This is a picture from NHS, actually. So this is the amount of paperwork that gets filled if somebody gets administered to a British hospital. And this already shows you, I beg your pardon, where the main problem lies, you know. The paperwork is killing all of us. At the same time, resistance to change is relatively big amongst doctors. I've conducted research myself. We've actually done a big survey. And it yields relatively interesting that this is one of the points that is true. The doctors see the computer and the IT often as an obstacle. So if you have the time, the article is some 6 years old, but I think it's still very current. It shows us where the problems are. This is our own research where we've asked doctors and we've received, and I put it out for you, the essence was basically the doctors would be open for the technology, but the solutions that are out there are just not made for us doctors. And that's often what I experience when I speak with entrepreneurs. They come with solutions that nobody has ever asked for. And when the doctors ask what IT should do, they ask for solutions that are impossible to be solved. So I think the co-creation, the cooperation between technology and doctors, that is what needs to be happened. That's what needs to be emphasized to be successful on the long run. So this is one of the better examples. I invite you onto that page, the-literature.com. It was created by a doctor from Australia in Kiel, and it is basically a chat GPT only going at PubMed articles. So whenever you need a review or an overview for a lecture, feel free to use it. I think it generates perfect answers, and with that you can learn a lot. This will certainly be the future. Our exchange with the patients will be something that will be of different interest, and it will be possible to show on a different level. But what is possible right now already is something that is one of my key, basically, fields of research, to use AI-supported voice commands to get us doctors away from keyboards, because us typing reports is not the right way to do it. Ambient listening for me is not the answer either, because nobody wants to have Alexa sitting in the room when he's talking to his doctor. But I think to make use of the doctor's voice, be it in the car on the way home from the hospital, or be it while he's running through the hospital, or just after the patient has left, is the future and is one of the potential answers that we will all be able to use. And we're working on a solution on that. We founded a startup in that field that is actually supporting the doctors, and it's working better and better. And those that have started using it are flabbergasted, and I'm just excited to be broadening the use of this, because I think it is really going to save us all a lot of time, a lot of pain, and it is something where we can elaborate on. With this, I'm already coming towards an end. I promised that I would be brief to allow for your questions and to basically get into an exchange. I invite you to my LinkedIn group, which is called Make Health Digital. I invite you to be active members. It does live from your participation, from what you're posting and sharing in there, be it videos from conferences, be it links to conferences, be it your own articles, be it your solutions, be it that is somebody on there who's an entrepreneur and says, I'm looking for doctors, be it a doctor who says, I need somebody from IT. So this is really something for active exchange. I promise to allow for an invite. I invite all of you to come to the Digital Health Summit this fall. It will be out there from November 6th to 8th. We usually have a guest country. Last year, it has been Finland. It was great to get into exchange with the Finnish startups, with the professors, with the scientists. Maybe this year we can get a Danish cooperation going. I would be very excited to see you there, to jump deeper into this. With this, I say it is not a threat that is out there. Technology is not a threat. It's not killing jobs. It is actually enabling us. It is the co-pilot for the doctor. In the future, the patient will not ask, would you be able to use technology? But he would say, I only trust you if you have run a certain AI across my lab results, across my radiology, imaging, and so on. So the IT does not replace us, it enables us. And this is the positive outlook. You see, the Greek mythology is basically showing that the strength of a horse with the brain of a human is the combination that we're actually seeing. With that, I say thank you in German, vielen Dank. This is my email address. It does not go to an assistant. It does not go to a chatbot. If you want to reach out, write to me. You will reach me directly. And now I'm here for your questions, and I thank you for your time listening to me.
Thank you so much, Dominik. So, who wants to ask questions for the horse with the big brain? Come on. Yeah, there's one down there.
Hi, thank you, Dominik, for a very interesting presentation, and very short as well. I'm Trine Bertoldi. I work for Bioinnovation Institution, a local incubator here in Copenhagen. What do you believe is the major hurdle for the expansion and the adoption of your digital doctor tools you just talked about? What's the major hurdle to make it successful out there?
Thank you very much. That's a brilliant question, because I keep getting asked that question, both from entrepreneurs, and we're also asking this ourselves. I think the adoption comes back to that slide that most people smile, where it says change is great as long as for me everything stays the same. The resistance to change among the doctors is huge. People are afraid of new technologies, are afraid of using it, and to overcome that initial hurdle, to be daring, yes, I'm using it, yes, I've gotten into that step. That is something that is really difficult, and I think we need to be positively talking about it, positively catalyzing the effect, and say, look, I've tried it, and it really saves me 15 to 35 minutes every day, and then people will start believing that it is actually true. So it must be super easy to use, and then we can overcome this. Next problem is that technology guys don't dare to talk to doctors, and doctors don't see themselves in the position to talk to IT guys. Unfortunately, that's something I'm really sad about, because I've only made great experiences when this conversation is actually being nourished And that's when great results come up. And that is something that is actually hindering our progress and the adoption of modern solutions.
So we need to make sure that we create an environment where we can talk and trust each other, and we will all eventually use technology. And hopefully we will all become better using technology. So that would be my summary. Is that fair, Dominik?
Yes, thank you very much. That brings it very much to the point. And I wish you a very, very good gathering. And if you would repeat this next year, I would be honored to be there in person and to get into the exchange, because something digitalization has not been able to replace is the serendipity of what happens when you're at a conference, to get into the exchange, to then trigger off programs and to allow for the personal exchange. That is something we cannot replace through technology yet. And through that, I would be very, very happy to see some of you live and in person, maybe this fall or at the next convention in Copenhagen.
Thank you so much, Dominik, and thank you for participating.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for your time. All the best to you. Thank you.
So the next speaker is Dr. Shlomi Laufer, who comes from Technion in Israel. And his research is centered on surgical data sciences, and he conducts studies on human activity recognition and analysis of surgical workflows. Shlomi will talk about his research within video documentation in the operation theater, as well as his experiences with hospital collaborations in general. Please.
Hi, thank you very much for organizing this great event. So a lot of my recent work, like my research, is about assessment of clinical skill, measuring performance. And in the past, a lot of it was done with sensors. We would put sensors on a surgeon's hand in a medical simulator, measure his motion, and usually senior surgeons have more efficient motion. They use both hands. There are different metrics that are classical in order to assess surgical skill. But that was done with sensors and usually in a simulation environment. With the advancement in computer vision, our ability to understand from video, track motion, detect objects. If 20 years ago computer vision was more a research tool, now it's a practical tool for actually tracking performance and tracking activities. For just one example from our studies, so you can see a simulator, there are still sensors on their hands because the data collected was almost 10 years ago, but now a lot of the analysis can be based on computer vision. We can track the tools, we can track the hands, we can track even the key points on the hands. We can even identify that's too tricky. The different gestures they're doing, so even identify the gestures. So a lot of things can be now done using computer vision. Now this is not limited just to surgical skill. This can be workflow analysis, identifying automatically in what phase they are in the procedure, what are they doing, has a lot of potential applications. It can be utilizing the operating room better. When is it available? When is it not? It can help the staff, like anticipating what is the next event. Not always the entire crew is familiar with the procedure. Like the surgeon obviously should be familiar, but the nurse, the circulating nurse, can be someone that moves a lot of different surgeries, and helping them anticipate what's the next step could be productive. On the long range, everything automatic and robotic, obviously computer vision will play a big role. And also an assessment of skills and reducing errors. So there's a lot of potential in having video data from the operating room. But what we really need for this research, and any data-driven nowadays research, we need data. We need video. I mean, without actual video data from the operating room, nothing is going to move forward. Historically, actually video data was first recorded about 100 years ago. Frank Gilbreth, one of the founding fathers of industrial engineers, he studied surgical procedures using video data. He studied the work of the surgeons. He studied the work of the nurses. He had a lot of progress was made somewhere there between 1912 and 1917. And he even had his earlier version of motion sensors, what you had back there. But since then, there's been a very big gap on actually collecting data in the operating room. So we have a lot of video sources nowadays in operating room. We have, in minimal invasive surgery, the camera is part of the procedure. Whatever the surgeon sees, he sees using the camera. We also had a lot of operating rooms now that have cameras in the lamps. You can see that in the, yeah, even got it this time. You see that this is a camera. It's installed in the lamp. It's used usually for either for students to come into the OR and want to see what's going on, or from medical staff. One of the big challenges of this lamp is that it usually captures this part of the head of the surgeon, but other than that, it's great. And now with the in the progress of like shrinking technology, there are more and more startup companies that are using head-mounted cameras. But there's still one main issue, and that is that for many years, so laparoscopic surgery started officially in the 60s, but somewhere in the 80s and the 90s of the previous century, it became very popular. But they didn't do one thing. They did not press record. So for many years, people were afraid of recording. They were afraid of someone's going to sue them, anything was going to happen. People did not record. So they've been doing minimal invasive surgery for many years, but they would randomly record if they wanted to document it to show something in a conference, but wasn't on a regular basis. That has started to change in the last, I would say, 10 years. There's slowly more and more places that are starting to record data. If we're talking about minimal invasive surgery, from a research point of view, 2017, there was a big data set of cholecystectomy that finally researchers could start work on workflow analysis and different computer vision problems on this data. And in the last few years, there is a growing interest in recording data on the operating room. But still, a lot of the data recorded is based on cameras that are already there, not cameras that you add in order to really fully capture what's going on. And that's been the focus of my research for the last 4 or 5 years. I've been working a lot with Rambam Medical Center, which is a hospital affiliated with the university, with the Technion, and installing cameras in 2 different rooms, focusing on the work of heart surgeons, on open heart surgery, and focusing also on the work of anesthesiologists. So this is a sample of video that we're starting to generate from open heart surgery. So you can see there's an overview camera of the room. There's more of a close-up that we can get their hand motion, and there's even a head-mounted one. This is the head-mounted camera, and this is the camera on the ceiling. It's a work in progress. We also work on analyzing the work of anesthesiologists. We can measure the drugs they're providing. We'll try to capture automatically the drugs. We have a camera that actually sees how frequently they're observing the monitor, and different aspects, everything in it, try to start capturing what's really going on in the operating room, so which can later be used for different purposes. So that's the main goal of my research. So if I summarize, just an overview, so there's a growing interest. Like, video data has a lot of information in it. And obviously we've seen in all domains. It should also influence the way we work in the operating room. But, sounds really good, but collecting data is a real pain. Surprisingly, people a lot of time ask me, are the surgeons okay with it? So actually that's many times the easiest part. I mean, there's so many surgeons in the hospital. Some of them are going to be okay with it. So first thing, find the surgeon that likes it. I mean, anything that you do with physician, finding a good collaborative physician is really important. Someone that will spend the time you need, the bandwidth you need. But a lot of times, like if we're talking about video data, so some surgeons are against it. We don't want it. Nothing's going to happen. Surgery has been the same for 100 years, and it's not going to change for 100 years. You can just avoid these surgeons. That's not a big issue. The bigger issue is the hospital. So first of all, in the operating room, and that was one of the mistakes I did, there's a full staff. So for example, cardiac surgery that I record, the chairman of the department was really enthusiastic about it. His culture is about let's improve our procedures, videotape us, and we'll make it better later on. But there's this nurse, there are a lot of staff in the hospital that you have to consider. And the bigger issue is actually getting the technology into the operating room. And for that you have to have champions in the hospital, probably in the management system also. Because once you want to put a camera in the hospital, then IT starts to ask questions. And I always joke that, so I install the cameras on the ceiling. And for a long time I would tell you, if you need your chest open, I can give you 5 surgeons tomorrow that will open your chest. If you need someone to drill a hole in the ceiling of the operating room, there's one guy, and I'm searching on the phone for 2 months now to just schedule the date. Because once you want to put new technology in, it's not a system that you buy, you want to install new technology in the operating room, no one knows how to take responsibility for that event. So getting people in the system that are enthusiastic about it and helping promote it is a very critical part of integrating such technology into the operating room. So that's in a nutshell just the potential of video data in the operating room and the struggles of making it happen. I'll be happy to answer questions.
So do you have any questions? Yeah? Yeah?
Thank you very much. I'm sure you're aware of the black box concept that's been driven from Canada for many years.
Yeah.
And I've always been a bit skeptical because they haven't published so far literature that document that we actually get a more efficient OR from utilizing this kind of systems. So please take me down the road to where the benefits are and how we can substantiate that, because the investment of these things are rather large, apart from the fact that all this red tape you're mentioning. So give me a little bit of insights to what the benefits will be and how far you are in the documenting part of that.
So first of all, he moved now to Stanford, the block. Now they're in America, actually. We're getting there. I mean, like, the first step is data. We need data in order for anything to happen. And if you look, so on the one hand, we want everything to improve, but if on the other hand, half of the research is done in cholecystectomy. That's what we have, that's what we're studying. So there's a lot of work to be done. But I think from what I spoke to them, they are improving right now. They are talking about, like, so as a researcher, I've moved both directions. I'm a researcher, I need to publish papers. So if it's publishable, I get my money back. That's a practical way. But from the other direction, you need to start with the small parts, because you're right, if you want to search for funding, and it's tricky because it's not always basic science, so you have to find funding that we've justified. It's about efficiency in the operating room, starting to talk about when is it available, when is it not available. They are talking about safety. Safety is really hard to prove that's beneficial, but safety, for example, the black box, they have an automatic system for the timeout, which is a part of the surgery where they have to say what the surgery is. They have an automatic system to judge that the timeout was okay. So it's small baby steps of getting there, but eventually, and some domains like robotic surgery, I think we'll see it sooner for some extent because it has the potential of becoming part of the actual system that you buy. But you're right, for the hospital, it's tricky. It's a tricky funding mechanism. The black box, they have an annual fee. I'm not sure if they prove its helpfulness, but 10 years from now, it will be helpful. The question is how we, or 20, I mean, like video data is going to help us. Like, we're going to identify things. Let's put it this way. How quickly it's going to be efficient, it depends how much money we spend right now. And it's tricky, but like even simple things like knowing that the cleaning staff came into the room or calling them and timing everything is going to be beneficial. Safety is harder to judge, but there's a lot of, that's another thing, my experience with surgeons. When I talk about assessment of skill, I always sit with surgeons and say, yeah, half the surgeons are terrible. I always get that from the surgeons, but it's always the other half. So improving their skill and judgment and feedback, it's harder to put into money, but that's really important. And now all of their training is done on us. So I think getting your value for money as a hospital, it's not here yet, but we have to make it happen somehow.
Thank you very much, Shlomi. Thank you. So our next speaker is Professor Jens Otto Brunner. And Jens has worked both as a co-director at Klinikum Augsburg at the University Center for Healthcare and as a professor of healthcare operations and health innovation management at University of Augsburg. And you will talk to us about data and data science in healthcare, right? Thank you.
A little bit of all. Thank you so much for inviting me to present some of my research, and as said, I'm from the Technology Management Economics Department, and I have a bit experience of doing research in healthcare operations management and also implementing some of my research in real practice, and I come back to that later. And I would like to guide you a little bit through my journey, what I did over the last 20 years since I started my career in academia. One of my research projects was designing the hospital of the future, which was more a qualitative survey, and we found out what are the key areas in a hospital that need to be interconnected. And when you look at this slide, you're going to see it's very, very complex. And one of the most demanding at the moment, I would say, is the staffing or the shortage of the healthcare workers. And partially, we might be able to replace some of these healthcare workers by technology. but also we have to consider that technology needs to be integrated into the processes. It's not only to develop a new diagnostic procedure, you also need that the doctors and the patients like it or use it, and to make it a very successful new process. And therefore, I think it's besides developing these technologies and having world-leading medicine, you also need the world-leading processes. And digital planning is one of the topics I focus on. And I would like to guide you through some of my research I've done. So it does not sound so, let's say, innovative, but staff scheduling is one of the major problems in the hospitals. People are unsatisfied, they leave the system, they want to turn away, work 9 to 5, have a nice work-life balance. And I mean, there's also the planner side. People spend a lot of time not doing medicine, they do planning. And what we developed here, and this roots back to my time at Technical University of Munich, one of the alliance partners. And this is still running, the software in the anesthesia department. We developed that in 2013, and we automated the staff scheduling problem. We create schedules, shift, and duty schedules for about 200 people in minutes. And before that, a senior physician was doing that more or less a week. And we integrate the preferences of the workforce, and we measure that. I mean, coming back to the previous presentation regarding the operating room theater, how you can improve that. You can definitely measure it if you can, for example, reduce the idle time in the theater when you have advanced information on doing the patient transportation early enough that the surgeons don't have to wait for the next patient. Or another thing is measuring the satisfaction of the patients. So they might be more satisfied if they know why they have to wait. So waiting is also a big problem. So this is something what we developed, and I also created a startup for that. Another nice tool we developed through the pandemic was a visitation management. You have seen what is the horrible situation in Germany regarding documentation, so piles of paper, and you had to document visitors. And visitors, normally you did not document before the corona crisis. They were just open places, the hospitals, and you could just go in and out. And now then there came the law and said you need to document, and you need to delete this documentation after 30 days in the German system. And some hospitals, they attached it to the hospital information system. But for this hospital information system, you need to keep track for the next 30 years. So you cannot really get rid of it. So we developed a tool that digitalized the process, and then in Germany we have the problem that the hospitals are entities, and it's like a fortress, so you cannot really access it from outside with a digital tool. But you need also the patient information. You need to check if a visitor has the right to visit someone in the hospital. Besides doing the technical implementation, we also evaluate the different visitation strategies and testing strategies, and we're looking a little bit, I think it's not, I can show you, it's a discrete event simulation, a 3D model of it. And this is actually the layout of the entrance for the university clinic in Augsburg. And you're going to see people come in and visit their relatives. This hospital has about 2,000 beds, so it's a quite large amount of visitors you see every day. And you're going to see how the waiting lines increase. And the question is, what is the infection outcome of such waiting lines, and how can you do the testing? Should you do it inside, on-site in the hospital, or should you do it outside and someone needs to come with a test already? And we developed strategies depending on the progress on the pandemic. What is the best strategy to also implement that in your hospital? The last one is more in the medical area. During Corona, I then started also working on primary care processes and medical decision support. And that is a very interesting project. We still have funding from the German Ministry of Education and Research, which tries to extract the knowledge from an anesthesiologist, put it into a system, and make it available for a surgeon when the surgeon makes the decision on ICU probability or when the surgeon schedules a patient for the operating theater. And what happens normally is they do it autonomously, normally 2 to 4 weeks before the treatment, and they give an indication, we need an ICU bed. And what's happening then, 2 or 3 days before the surgery, the patient is seen by an anesthesiologist, and the anesthesiologist does not agree with the judgment of the surgeon before, because the anesthesiologist looks at the whole patient. So you have a conflict, and you have a resource bottleneck. And then you need to cancel the treatment on shorthand, which is bad for the patient, which is bad for the hospital, and it's a lot of planning effort because you need to provide a new appointment in the future. And therefore, we developed a decision support tool. We applied machine learning algorithms, white and black box models, and now we are in the testing phase with surgeons and with anesthesiologists in a experimental environment where they use this kind of decision support tool, and we want to identify if it's really valuable for them in making better decisions in the future. In another project, we developed a new operating room schedule for the block schedule for the operating theater in Augsburg. And after implementation, and our new feature was an ICU block. So it's a very silent new thing, but we kind of centralized the planning process a bit by identifying if you are allowed to treat ICU patients on a specific day or not. In the end, it were the ICU quotas we had per day, and we could reduce in a test period. We could reduce the short-term cancellations by over 90%, and that is a tremendous effect for the operations and also for the patients in the end. Yeah, these are kind of the projects I still work on. Some of them, or most of them, are rooted in Augsburg. So it's digitalization in nursing profession. Care Regio is a big project on looking at different ideas how to make the nursing profession's life a bit easier with digitalization. We have the Green Hospital. It's a cool project on evaluating sustainability in hospitals. And looking at all the hospitals in Bavaria and identifying what is the sustainability efforts, what are the measurements they take, and knowledge sharing. I mean, some they do try, but they don't share this knowledge. And I think this is a very cool thing. Aftermath of the pandemic, it's prognosis, it's pandemic preparedness. A project where we try to identify what is the waves, what is the number of people we're gonna see in a pandemic with an infection, and how can we combat that? And our responsibility in this project is to develop resource actions, sharing doctors, moving patients away based on blips in the pandemic way. And the last one is the KISSIC, what I mentioned before, where you saw this clinical decision support. We develop a new technology, a new management software tool for managing intensive care unit capacities from the planning, but also on the shifting around of the patients. Everything what I do at the moment, besides putting a lot of effort in developing the technology management and economics part with focus on healthcare, is rooted in the Center for Excellence in Healthcare Operations Planning, which is a joint project with Region Zealand. And this is the knowledge center we build at the moment. And hopefully we can also join the capital region in the near future. So that's it with my presentation. Lessons learned. I mean, you need to build up trust. I mean, this is very important. Bring the researchers to the clinicians, not the other way around. That doesn't work. And maybe a thing that needs to be addressed by university management, you need to reflect, if you do interdisciplinary research, that career paths are pretty tough. I mean, you need the publications to be promoted. And if you work with clinicians and they have different systems of measuring. So first author, last author. In our system, the number of authors is, the more you have, it's very problematic. So the career paths need to reflect these special circumstances when you try to do interdisciplinary research. Yeah, I mean, that's a bit technology side. It's more, yeah, software should follow the process re-engineering. But I think this is natural. But in agile environments, sometimes you do it hand in hand. Yeah. Thank you so much.
So any questions to Hans Otto? Are we exhausting our question ratio? So if you should give some good advice to us who are working between universities and hospitals on how to make sure that these more logistic-wise initiatives gets implemented, do you have any good advice for that?
Yeah, I think, I mean, you need these shared positions. That's what I had in Augsburg. So I was appointed at the university, but I was heading a center in the local clinic. I was integrated in the management board. And so I knew what their problems were, the more operational ones and also the tactical ones. And so I could assist and could advise in these meetings and also make aware that you can use research to improve your processes. So I think this is one of the things. And another thing is, if you want to make the researchers work together, initiate funding, as you did already with the strategic PhD initiative, to make sure that people from different departments, different research communities need to work together on PhD projects. So have this seed money. This is what we did also in Augsburg. I was working in this center that was headed by me and my colleague. She was environmental medicine, and then we had a clinical epidemiologist. I mean, clinical epidemiologist is a bit closer to what I do with the statistics, but environmental medicine, no clue about that. And we did allergy management. And then we started developing apps for allergy management and evaluating the usefulness of such apps by pollen monitoring. And we came up with this idea because we had the money. We needed to spend the money together. So this was kind of what worked. I'm not saying that it works always, but this is
but it's good
what I
recommendation
experienced.
we need to work on. Thank you very much, Hans Otto. So our next speaker is Professor Galit Yom-Tov. She is an associate professor at Faculty of Data and Decision Sciences at Technion University, where she focuses on operations of service systems, in particular healthcare and contact centers. Galit will talk about her research within a system that can predict and announce patients' wait time in their on their personal journey, as well as experiences with hospital collaboration in general. Welcome.
Thank you. Okay, so as you said, my research is on the intersection between psychology, data science, and operations research. And in general, what we do is we take data from hospitals around. We have already in my lab, about data sets of patient flow data, usually of around 15 hospitals from around the world. And we use that in order to understand mostly I would say, how people's behavior impact operations and how operations impact people's behavior. And specifically, what I'm going to show you today is around 2 projects that is looking at how people choose or how information we give people is impacting their behavior in the healthcare sector. So the first project that we started with was looking at how providing patients information about wait times in the ED before they come or before they choose the hospital that they go into would impact their choice and therefore impact the operations within the ED. And we collected data from the internet. Actually, we didn't need to collaboration with hospitals for that. From more than 200 hospitals in the US that provide this kind of data, and try to see how would that impact their waiting times. And what we see is that it has great potential in the sense that hospitals that are providing, or where in an area this type of information is provided for more than one hospital, okay, then what we see is a significant reduction of more than 20% in waiting times in the EDs. But that could be a problem, and actually a problem when more and more people are actually using this information. And what we see is that because hospitals are giving the IT people to do those predictions, and are using a 4-hour moving average, which is very, very standard and very simple method. What we see is that when more and more people are using it, instead of reducing waiting time, it's actually increasing waiting times. And so it's not enough to give the IT people, okay, or the data scientist of the hospital, okay, you do this and everything is fine. You need really to look at the system in a holistic, from a holistic point of view. And then what we did was taking this into the ED and ask ourselves, how can we improve using transparency and using information, the experience of people within the ED? And so when we think about how people are experiencing ED, what we know is that they feel pain, that they're confusing, everything is really problematic from their point of view. And part of their point of view is that they don't know what's going on with them. They don't know what's the next stage is. Everything is really fuzzy and unknown and uncertain, not just in terms of their medical stage or their medical problem, but also in terms of what's going on, who is going to see them next. And there is asymmetry of information. If someone would go and harass the physician every time, he might be able to know a little bit more, but even them don't know everything. That was supposed to be a video, okay. So what we do in our lab is basically take patient flow data and create those kind of videos or this kind of analysis. So this is not a simulation, this is real data taken from an emergency department in Haifa. And what we see is that the process itself is very complex. It has a lot of people that each patient that is coming into the ED see a lot of people, and each one has a different flow or a different process that they need to know. And those processes are not known to begin with. So it's not like, and it's not planned to begin with, which is different than other service systems or other processes in general. And so what we wanted to do is actually try to analyze and predict patient flow or patient passes through that process in real time and try to predict waiting times for patients. So what we did, it looks like this. So we basically created an application that patients are registered into when they come into the ED. They see what they need to wait for now. They see what the processes that they will personally need to do afterwards. They see what processes they already completed. And in order to create this kind of application, sorry, I'll go back. And also they see waiting time estimations for each processes and to the whole process in general. In order to create this, it looks like, okay, another application. The technology when we started around 7 years ago was actually not there. So you need basically to do what is called process discovery in order to analyze the process automatically. You don't want to harass the physicians and the clinicians. You don't want them to put more information into the information system. You want everything to be automated without giving more work to someone in the ED. So it has to be automated. It's very, very essential. And also waiting time predictions are actually, it's actually a complicated problem in terms of technology. What we are basing on is the idea of queue mining, basically taking information from queuing theory, which is one of my expertise, and into data science tools and combining them together in order to reduce, in order to have accurate predictions for wait times. We implemented that in the hospital. We had Corona going into the middle of our experiment, which was a problem. And what we found was that indeed the system increased satisfaction through increasing sense of understanding and sense of progress. So the idea that I'm actually going somewhere, and also reducing abandonment. some lesson learned from this. Okay, we talked about a lot about the importance of bringing students. One of the things that I noticed, and one of the problems, is that you cannot have one student or one PhD on such a project. The reason is that there's so much uncertainty in what's going on when you are trying to do something in the industry, and especially in hospitals. And so it has to be something, from my experience, that is initiated by us, by the faculties, and maybe going through multiple students so that they would not be hanged out, for example, by coronavirus stopping the experiment that their PhDs rely on. So that's one lesson. Also, I think that if I look at different collaborations that we have in with hospitals, as was mentioned before, data is really, really important. But also, what can we as researcher bring into the table? And I think the places where we can bring into the table are places where there are a lot of uncertainty. There's a significant knowledge gap that an engineer, a regular engineer, might not be able to actually solve the problem. When you need something that is more interdisciplinary, not just someone from one expertise, and when you don't want to rush, so you want more long-term development. So the people involved in this project, as you can see, not just one person. Two faculties from my faculty, Onno Boxmo, he's from Eindhoven Technical University, so you might know him. Two PhD students, one master student, physicians, clinicians, IT people. So it's really, you need many people for that. That's it.
Thank you. So do you have any questions for Galit? Yeah? Great, but thank you for asking questions.
I work in the right place being so curious here. Thank you for a great and inspirational presentation. I was wondering, in terms of, when we support any startups, we look very much on the evidence. So what is the evidence of impact your technology will drive? So what is the primary endpoint you were looking at when you created your tool? What was the major impact you created?
So what we wanted was, to increase satisfaction and reduce violence. So there are research that is showing that there's a lot of violence in EDs, and being uncertain about the processes is actually one of the problems. Actually, we did not find it in this specific project, but in other projects that was just even giving time estimation in general in the ED, we saw a reduction in violent tendencies. So that was where we started from. What we saw in practice, and we didn't anticipate, was that it actually reduced abandonment within the process. So people who actually started came into the ED and at one point just went home, disappeared in the middle of the process, which is called sometimes left without being seen, or there are medical terms for that. And we saw a 30% reduction in left without being seen in the hospital while giving this information. And so, and this is connected to health. So there are other research that shows that left without being seen is connected to increase, both increase risks for deterioration and longer lengths of stay then.
No, thank you.
So, yeah, thank you very much. Very, very interesting. I'm curious about the in your particular project. You mentioned the let's say the psychological aspects and anthropology. So I'm wondering. We talk a lot about engineering and medicine, but what about the other sciences? So this negative feedback that you're talking about, that the behavioral behavior changes when you develop your tool and you get the information. How I just wonder if you could elaborate a bit on the importance of having those sciences involved as well in the process.
So I think that many problems that behavioral aspects are essential. For example, compliance with medication. Okay, the physician is writing something. Who is responsible or who can improve compliance with actual patient taking the medication? I think social sciences could make a difference there. And also with combination with data science, really learning how to tweak each person individually and not as people as a group. So that's one area that I think is important. Another area that we are also researching is, for example, no-shows. So no-show is a behavioral phenomena, okay, in service systems in general, and is reducing efficiency in many healthcare services because people don't show up. And for example, data is showing that as you schedule surgeries or meetings or appointments more longer in advance, then no-shows probabilities are increasing, could go up to 40%. And so how to deal with that and how to deal with uncertainty and with this kind of behavior is, I think, where this meeting of social sciences and operations research is actually important.
Do you have any, I was more thinking, I mean, this seems like a bilateral collaboration, right? But do you have any viewpoints on how we can incorporate the social sciences more systematically into what we do as engineers?
Okay, so in our faculty, so I'm in the data and decision sciences faculty, which used to be industrial engineering and management. So we have about, I think 15 or 20 of our faculty are coming from the organizational behavior aspects. And we are really encouraging collaborations between people from those areas and the more engineering side of the faculty. So we do a lot within the faculty to nurture collaboration. I don't know much done on the whole university level, but that's something that could be done. And it's working really, really nice. Actually, two of my collaborators, Avi Parush and Nato Feli, they are psychologists. I'm more into the OR side of this project.
Martin?
Thank you very much. I really think some of these logistical insights can leverage a lot of more satisfaction, as you say. Are you aware, do you work yourself with creating solid knowledge about scheduling done by patients themselves? Because there's a huge loss in patients that, reschedule, many phone calls, secretaries. So the notion of actually putting out more openly what kind of surgeons and specialists there are for the patients themselves to schedule. Do you know what the general research are there?
Just as a user. No,
I think Hans Otto has a question.
Okay, so maybe a comment to Jan's statement. I think you need to integrate them in the co-creation process while you develop the technology, and when you use the technology. And in our department, there's Benjamin Lipp, who is looking at this exactly, and then doing observational studies while you do technology development. So I think this could be one way forward. To your question, this is exactly what we tried in Region Zealand at the moment in Sleisler. Look at how can we make this planning process of appointments better and integrate the patients in it, because they have different system in different departments, and the departments that schedule autonomously without talking to the patient, they have higher no-show rates, and they wonder why. Okay, I have an answer for this, but I think this is the way forward to use technology to integrate the patients in this process. And I have a question or more a comment on your presentation. I mean, that's wonderful, and it kind of complements what normally I do in my research. And I was wondering, how do you connect your research results to planning? So planning, staff planning, and patient planning in the EDE or resource planning, and you could easily use your wait time predictions to see what is the workload in the next hour, in the next 2 hours, and then take countermeasures to use more doctors or more nurses on short-term notice and have pools or so. So did you connect that? And if not, that is an offer to collaborate.
Oh, great. Thank you. So in this project, we have not, but staffing is definitely in queuing theory was how I actually got into all this area, and ED staffing was actually my PhD project many years ago. So I definitely agree with you that this is really, really important, and it's really a tough problem because everything is time varying. There's a lot of uncertainty, and it's really, really hard. But yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Galit.
Thank you.
So now it's time for you to interact, have some lunch, and if you find the time, I urge you to go into the developer floor we have just next doors and talk to some of the startups there. They would love to talk to you and, you know, engage on the solutions that they are having. So take that opportunity if you have the energy for it. We will reconvene 1:45.